Welcome to the Content Amplified podcast, brought to you by Masset. Our goal is to help you get more from your marketing content. Each episode is a 10 to 15 minute interview with industry experts that share amazing insights to help you squeeze as much juice from your content as you possibly can. Here's today's interview.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Katrina. Katrina, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ben. I'm really excited to be part of it today.
Absolutely. Love to have you here. So today is going to be a fun episode, but before we dive in, Katrina, let's get to know you. I always ask these questions. What do you love about content? What do you love about marketing? And then on top of that, let's get to know your background, history, and a little bit about you.
Great. Thank you. What do I love about content? I think it's definitely the storytelling. I think a lot of content marketers feel the same way. And that's sort of how I got my start in journalism, as I wanted to be a storyteller. I want to connect with people, not just in what we're publishing or who we're trying to connect with, but in building an audience and building community. And when I go to events and people come to meet, with whether it's our CEO, our COO, or leasing reps, or even marketing, they have a sense of who we are, and they have a sense of excitement and expectation about what we're doing that really helps just kind of change, maybe not the conversation, but it helps, bring the conversation to a different level. So I'm really excited about what content can do to help those areas of, not only our business, but also help the people that we're trying to reach. And my background, I've done a lot of things, a lot of fun things, but my formal training per se was as a journalist. And I was a sports reporter for a couple of years over at Newsday. Learned so much from those guys, not only about editing and storytelling, but like on the digital side, and like how to really create and tailor content for digital versus what's in print. And that was really where I got my kind of hunger to like, all right, well, I can do this in other ways for brands or, other sorts of companies. I don't have to just be tied to being a journalist in a newspaper. And that's when I discovered I wanted to work in sports even more, more deeply, more meaningfully. So I was working for the New York Islanders for about 5.5 years. I started actually on a project that was, we were working to keep the New York Islanders at home in Nassau County. That had a lot of political attention to it. It was in the news constantly, a lot of polarizing things that were attached to that. But it helped me build this foundation of understanding how to talk to many different types of audiences. And, kind of being able to figure out how to talk to all those people is sort of what took me to the next level. I was working in healthcare for a large health system in New York for a few years. Went back to sports and doing marketing for a really large sports facility in Brooklyn. And that led me back to healthcare. Again, I felt like the stories that I could tell could actually really meaningfully help people make decisions in their life about how to care for their health, how to care for the health of their families. And that kind of connected me so deeply to those types of stories that I work at an international bone marrow donor center. I was there for 3.5 years, and they are among the most impactful in my entire journey through sports and marketing and healthcare, connecting with patients and their families, and just the confluence of that and how we could make a difference in saving people's lives. I still give my time to organizations like that. It just rocked me so hard. And I think it's what helps make me so passionate, even about doing commercial real estate like I am now. I really, truly believe that, telling stories and pulling the right levers and using the right channels and connecting with the right voices really can make a difference in what we're doing.
I love it. That's a great background. So many good experiences, so many different experiences. I love it. So today, diving into the subject, we're going to get very tactical. So you recently built a white paper and went through the whole process. And many people have done this. They've done it in different ways, but I think it's so helpful to walk through it from start to end to see how you go through this process for people to say, oh, maybe I could add that step, or maybe I should take this step out, or maybe I should do white papers in general, or things like that. So I'm excited to dive into it. So first and foremost, how did you come up with the need and the idea to create a white paper, and maybe walk us through some of those steps at the very beginning on the ideation side?
For the last 3 years, and I've been here for a year and a half, the last 3 years, so there was a white paper prior to my time, we wanted to be able to create and develop content that we could put out into the ether that would attract investors, that would really tell the story of why, you need brick and mortar, even in an e-commerce world, quote unquote. You can't have, clicks without bricks. We kind of played with all these different ideas, which are all very real and substantive to being a successful investor in our space. But it was really born out of trying to connect to investors. And so we would create these white papers. They kind of live on our website. And we were really trying to get those downloads. Here's a landing page. Here's an example of what you're going to see. Give us your email address. And I think after last year's white paper, which we saw a lot of success with, we really analyzed the channels that we used, paid media, sponsored content, thought leadership, from our senior leaders here, PR, all the different pieces of the puzzle, to be pretty successful. But we didn't get the downloads that we had hoped for. Internally, you're always like, this is the greatest thing ever. Everyone's going to love it. And then it's like, how come this amount of people downloaded it? This was great. So we really looked at that. And what we determined was, while it was good content, we were not providing the type of value that an investor needs. They're numbers people. They want to see the proof, and they don't want to just hear you blowing your own smoke, right? We, to some degree, you start talking to yourself about it because we're experts on our subject matter, right? But we were not providing the type of value that we really needed to. So we thought, okay, we know what media outlets we might want to, hit this time. We know what PR we want to hit, or we're starting to figure that out. But we got to figure out how to get this data piece solved. So, our SVP of marketing really, challenged us to think about that. And we started to reach out to the CBREs of the world, Nuveen, Colliers, all these bigger firms that have research arms to it that we could brainstorm with them. Cushman & Wakefield's another one, great insights, that we could leverage that data to tell the story that investors really need to hear. And that's how we sort of started to build this.
I love this process. A couple things that I just want to call out. I love how your first element, it sounds like we have a problem to be solved, and we feel like this could be a good avenue. And then before you just start writing content, what I love is that you analyze previous data. You looked at the past campaigns, you looked at the pros and cons and everything you did, and then you knew how to move forward. I love that, because I think we skip that on the marketing side way too often, where we don't go look at past failures and or successes and say, what are we going to do different? And how is it going to actually solve this problem? Sorry, just wanted to call that out because I love the process you're going through here. Makes a lot of sense.
We couldn't grow if we didn't take a look at what had happened already, right? So having done all that work, we have a great data person on our team who helps support that. Having done all that work, we'd be able to say, okay, sponsored content was okay, but maybe we really need to create multiple assets out of this, or chunk it out better and fill our hopper. That's what I call our channels. Fill the hopper with so many more things for this. And downloads isn't the answer. Downloads is a great thing for us to have, but is this audience really ready? Or does this audience say, I want to give you my email address just so I can see what you want to talk about in open air retail? Or is it better for us to know how many people really engaged and consumed it? That's where we made a really pivotal decision to go ungated on this. Now we're able to specifically measure how many people and from where they came actually consumed 100% of this content. And I think that was a big win for us. And, we still, hey, if you want to download this, you can have it as a PDF, bless your heart. We'd love for you to do that. And that's an option. But we really wanted people to feel value. We wanted them to off the bat not feel like they had to give us an email address, because, that's something that can be a little off-putting when you're just getting to know a brand, right? And that was a big takeaway from our previous learnings was downloads isn't everything. Eyeballs, engagement, consumption, measurement was what we really needed to plant our flag in. So, and that's what we really did. And we leveraged, outside of creating the beautiful, beautiful design of this, which was so well done by our team. We have some incredible designers. We figured out how to push people down the page. This was a real exercise for the whole team to learn from. And I think we've been very successful in getting that engagement up because of that, strategically designing it that way. It's a big kudos to them. And now what we look at is, all right, how do we get this in front of people so we can actually start to understand the engagement and which one of these channels is really doing the heavy lifting? We talked about how we can leverage some media outlets or publications that have a more ABM approach. So we'll know pretty specifically who clicked when and why, and, and how much did they actually read? And not for it's not a creepy thing to me. It's empowering for us to figure out that, wow, this channel really, even though we thought this would get us more of an investor, group, this really was more in the construction industry. And that's important for us to know, because why are people in the construction industry really looking at open air retail information? What's a trend that we can pick out of that? And how do we deliver those leads to our construction company, Renova, which we have, spun out of DLC as well? That was an unforeseen thing for us, but we set ourselves up to have a learning, right? So that was super important. And I think, so pulling the right levers in terms of paid media, looking at an ABM approach. We also know that some industry publications are just straight fire. And I just want to be associated with them. So that halo effect of some of it, which was really, impactful as well. Even folks from our own organization, not our target audience, but sometimes that internal cred is kind of important, who saw where we were advertising and saw the creative and were like, wow, this is the right, you guys are doing incredible things. And now they want to participate. So that was helpful too. But again, just nothing but incredible learnings based on the strategy that we put in place that, engagement and, consumption were really important to us over just getting an email address.
I love it. That's such a cool process. So you found a problem to be solved. You did the research beforehand to see how you should change it. I love that you did a data approach. How do we provide as much value as possible? Mm-hmm. Probably double click. I've got a couple questions on that. And then you created something, you collaborated. I love the approach about ungating the content, the ABM side to say, how do we get target accounts to look at this and things of that nature? And then ultimately just that roundabout effect of saying, okay, what's the overall halo effect as well? So many good tidbits. I guess a couple things because we're already running out of time. So really quick, how long did it take you to create the article and or the white paper, e-paper, whatever you want to call it? How long did it take you? And second of all, how much of an investment, and you don't need to share dollar amounts, but was it a substantial investment to get the data, or is that purely based off of relationships that you had with these businesses to be able to do that?
So one, it took us, in terms of how long it took us to put this together, I think strategically it took us maybe 2 to 3 weeks, to really internally, build our plan, get buy-in because, when you spend money, we want to get some buy-in from the powers that be on that side. And they were pretty excited about it as well. And then in terms of like investment in like spend, it was more than we had spent in previous white papers, but we also shifted from being super specific, I believe, to like real estate or some of the other outlets we'd used, previously, to really like blowing the doors off the joint. So that was really important to me, was that like have a little cachet and go, take a step above. And one thing that we thought about in that step above was, we have a big, huge industry trade show called ICSC Las Vegas. We, a lot of people from our team go. Our CEO is there. Our COO is there. Our leadership is all there making deals. This is a huge deal making event. And we said, how do we now leverage the cachet we've borrowed from the companies we work with to get the data, bring them to life and create a buzz? We put a studio in our booth. And we invited all those people who were so awesome at working with us to partner with us on this data. We brought them to our booth. So again, now we're bringing them to our world, right? We did a green screen, video, interviews with them. A lot of them were sat down with our CEO, sat down with Chris Ressa or Adam Ifshin. Like, that's giving them direct access to pretty important people. And then we have multiple videos and things that we can keep cranking out, because the things that we're talking about are the trends that are lasting through the rest of this year. So now I've got a tremendous amount of, content. I've got, people feeling good, people being excited, people like coming over like, this is great. Wow. I'm so excited. And then we created beautiful things out of it. I get so excited about how good they look. That like, visually in our feed show up and like, people are like, wow, that looks different, So that was another piece of this, strategically, that took a lot of time and investment, was putting the studio into the booth. And I think we learned that moving forward, it's an influencer approach, but it's not, I don't really consider it that as much as it's a relationship building and like borrowing credibility approach. So that was important to the process in terms of, spend and effort as well.
I love that. And I love how you didn't just say, great, let's create a white paper, let's send it out, do some advertising, get some press and move on. You're leveraging that for the rest of the year. You're getting those interviews, using that material. All of it's an opportunity to point back to the white paper and the value and the thought leadership. I love the holistic approach, and I think this is so helpful. Well, right. Katrina, as promised, these go by quickly. This has been really insightful. There's so much here that I think people can learn from. But if anyone does want to reach out and further the conversation online, Katrina, how and where can they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Actually, you can find me pretty much everywhere. But for the sake of this, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. And my name is Katrina Mullaney. There's not a lot of people running around with my name. You'll definitely find me. And and you can find us at DLC Management. And we look forward to connecting with anyone that wants to keep talking about this, because as you can tell, I can go on for days.
I love it. And we'll link to Katrina's profile and the business inside the show notes for anyone who wants to find it. Again, Katrina, thanks for your time today.
Thank you. I'm really excited to meet you, Ben.
Thank you for listening to the Content Amplified podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And for additional ways to get more out of your content, visit our website at getmasset.com. That's getmasset.com. And tune in next time to the Content Amplified podcast.